Hey guys, we're going to go ahead and add some more stuff to our chat right here using ReactJS and Socket.io. And that's just going to be a list of users that are logged in. So for right now, we just have our chat. So right over here, we want to have some buttons to click so we can display our users as well. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and get some styles and get some updated styles. And I'll put a link down in the description of these styles. And we're just going to go over here into our index.css and go ahead and paste that in there and save it. Perfect. And now we can go on with the tutorial. So if we go here, we're going to go into our sidebar.js and we're going to go ahead and make one of these a component, and that's going to be this right here. And we're just going to call it a sidebar option. And that sidebar option is just this little thing right here, this one little rectangle here. So we can use it for our chats as well as our users. So we're just going to copy that and we're going to make a new file. We're going to save it. And we're actually going to make a new folder as well. So inside components, we're going to make a new folder called sidebar. And inside there, we're just going to save sidebar option.js. And it's just one option. Cool. And then we're going to use a nice little snippet to get this go ahead and started. We're going to call it sidebar, just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and paste that code here. Oh, let me go get that. Perfect. And there we go. We have our component. We won't need an ID on that. And the classes is going to change a little bit. And the on chat is going to be an on click. And then this is just going to be a name. And this is also going to be a name. And then the last message is going to stay the last message without the dot message. Perfect. So now right up here in our class, we're going to put some prop types. So let's go ahead and import prop types real quick. Awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and set our prop types for this. And that's going to be a name, which is going to be of type string. And that's going to be required. And then we're also going to have a last message, which is going to be of type string, but that's not going to be required. And we're going to have an active, which is just going to say if this chat is active. Prop types of bool. And also an on click, which is just going to be a function. Awesome. And then we're going to set some default prop types for this. So default props. And that's going to be last message, like that. And then active, which is just going to be false. And then also on click, which is going to be an anonymous function, just like that. Perfect. So now we go down into our render method and we're going to say const, and we're going to get all those props. So we're going to get the name, the last message, the active, and the on click. And that's coming from the props. Now right here, we're just going to say on click, and that's it. And then here, we're going to say, instead of that class thing we had, we're going to say this is active. If it is active, we're going to give it a class of active. And if it's not, we're not going to give it anything. And then everything else looks good. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move our sidebar into our sidebar folder, just like that. And we're going to go into chat container because now it has a few errors, and that's just that our sidebar is no longer there, but it's in sidebar folder, just like that. And now we're going to go to our sidebar.js, and we're going to go ahead and import our sidebar option. So sidebar option from sidebar option, just like that. And then we're also going to import some things from the functional library called LoDash. So let's go ahead and install that into our project real quick. So stop that server real quick, npm install LoDash. Actually, let's go ahead and make that npm install dash dash save LoDash. So it'll save into our dependencies for this project. Run React. Perfect. And now we can go in here and we're going to import two things, and those two things are going to be get and last, which are just some helper functions from LoDash that'll help us do some nice things that I want to do for our project here. So now we're going to go down to this chats.map, and we're going to use our sidebar option, and it's going to be sidebar option, boom, just like that, and the name, and that's going to be the chat.name for now, and then we're also going to give it a key, and that key is going to be the chat.id. And we're going to get rid of all this stuff. We don't need any of this anymore. And then last message. And this is where that function comes from, those two functions that we're going to use, which is get. And get is just going to get a key from an object. So say we had an object here called something with a message property. It's going to get that message property. And if there is no message property, it's just going to return that empty string. So we're not going to get it from there. We're going to get it from last, which is just going to get the last of something. So we're going to say chat.messages, just like that. So it'll get the last of the chat.messages and get that message from that object. And then we're going to have an active, and that's going to be active chat.id equals chat.id. Perfect. And then on click, our on click for this one is going to be setting the active chat. So we're just going to say start set props, set active chat to this chat. Perfect. All right, so if we go back and we open our server at localhost 3000, looks like we have an error. Sidebar option does not contain sidebar option. That's an easy fix. Yes, sidebar option. And since it's exported as default, that's why it's not working. We're just going to make it export without default. And there we go. But log in. You'll see that we have the same thing that we had before. Nice and easy. I'm going to make two because we're going to test some users real quick. And if I go ahead and try to talk to Leon, you'll see that we'll have a Leon and Mike, just like we did before. Awesome. Next, we're going to go ahead and upgrade our chat object a little bit. So inside our factories.js, I've updated the comments to have is community as one of the things. And so we're going to have a property called is community right down here. And we're also going to be able to set that here. And it's going to be equal to false if it's not passed in. So now if we go to our socket manager and we go ahead and say create chat, and we're going to give it an object that says is community, and that's going to be equal to true. Now the reason I did that is so that we could use it to set the name accordingly. So now I can say if is community, this name is going to be something. So if it is community, we're just going to set the name to community. And if it's not community, we're going to set the name to a function that I'm going to create down here. And it's going to be called create chat name from users. And we're just going to pass in the users just like that. Right down here, you see that this takes two parameters, users, and an optional parameter called excluded user, which means like the user that we want to exclude from the name. So right now we're just going to go ahead and make that function and excluded user. And then we're going to, actually, let's make this a function like this. And then all that's going to do is return a few things. And that's going to be the users filtered, and that's going to be just the user's name. So we're going to say the user's name does not equal excluded user. So we'll filter out the excluded user, and then we're going to join all those users with an and symbol with some spaces. And if there's no users to do this with, we're just going to say empty users, just like that. And that's not triple equals, that's just a double equal. Cool, and now we're going to export that down here at the bottom. So now we can go and go to our sidebar option, no, actually, our sidebar, and we're going to use that for our chat name here. So we're just going to say if the chat dot is community, we're just going to give it the chat name, but if it's not, we're going to go ahead and create chat name from users, chat name from users, just like that. And we're going to pass in the users as well as an excluded user, which is the user that is currently logged in, and their name. So now we're going to get this from factories, import. Now if we go back, looks like we have an error, users is not defined, and that's because we need to go to our chat container. A prop that's going to be inside here. And actually, we're just going to make it a part of the state, actually. So users, just like that. Then right up here in our state, we're going to say users, just like that. And then down here in our render, we're going to pass that to our sidebar as a prop. Nice and easy. And we're going to pre-fill this user so we can test that it's actually working. So we're going to put in Mike and Cinderella and Jimmy. Perfect. So now let's go to our sidebar again. Down in the render method, we're going to get that from our props, users, just like that. We go over here and we log in. You see there's just nothing really changed here, but if you have the React extension on Chrome, you can go ahead to your terminal, or not your terminal, but your console, and go to the React. And if we go in here, you'll see that we have in our chat container, in our sidebar, as a prop, users, which is going to be something right here. Mike, Cinderella, and Jimmy, just like that. Easy. So we're going to go out of that. And now if I go and I log in as Mike as well. Oh, Mike's already taken, Mikey. Is it Mike? Capital M. You see that you have Mike and Cinderella and Jimmy, all part of the users there. And what we're actually going to do is for our chat here, we're not going to use the users there, but the chat dot users. And that's it. So now we're going to go ahead and map over those users. So right here under chats, we're going to say users.map, and we're just going to say other users, other user, I guess. And we're going to say return that sidebar option again. This time we're not going to have a chat, it's just going to be a user. So we're going to give it a key, and that key is just going to be the other user.id. And we actually have to change our users a little bit to have these keys. Okay, and then the name just going to be other user name, and then an on click. And that's just going to be a function that we're going to make in a little bit. So for right now, let's go to our chat container again, and we're going to make these objects instead. It's going to have a name property, it's going to have an ID of 1, 2, and make this one 3. And then we're going to go back to our sidebar again. We're going to import another thing from LoDash, and that's going to be difference by, and that just gets the difference or the things that are different in an array or an object. So right here, we're going to say difference by for our users, difference by, and then I'm going to say users, and then pass in the user we have here. And we're going to get the difference by ID. So this is going to take the current user that is logged in and take it out of the users array if it's in there, which it will be once it's logged in. So now, actually let's use a name for now so we can see that it takes out the name if my name's Mike. And if I go ahead and say Mike just like that, you'll see that we have Cinderella and Jimmy, but Mike's not here. If I log back out and I come in as Leon, you'll see that Mike, Cinderella, and Jimmy are all there. So now that we have all that, we're going to go ahead and start trying to add chats for these users. So let's go, and for this onClick function, we're going to say this dot add chat for user, and we're just going to say other user dot name. All right, so now we're going to make that function inside here. So if we go up here and we say add chat for user, user's name right there, and then we're going to say this dot props dot on send private message like we had before, and give it that username. Easy. So now we're going to go ahead and make some buttons so that we can separate our users and our chats. So down in here, right after our form, we're going to make a div with the class of side-bar-select. And then inside there, we're going to have another div with the class of sidebar-select underscore option times 2. And then we're going to make this a little bit different. We're going to make it use our nice backticks so we can put some variables inside here. And then there's going to be an onClick function that we're going to have. And that onClick is going to be a this.set active sidebar, which we're going to create in a second. And that's going to take our types that we are going to create as well. And it's going to be type chats and also users for the other one. This one's going to say chats inside of a span. And this one's going to say users. Last thing we need to do is go ahead and have an active class on these. That's going to say active sidebar equals to sidebar dot type dot chats and users for the other one. And then we're going to go ahead and put those at the top here. So static type equals chats, and users. And then we're going to go ahead and put the active sidebar in our state, just like that, and make it equal to sidebar.types.chats. Then we're going to go ahead and get that in our render method. And if we go back to the application, We log in, you'll see that we have chats and users just like that. We can't click them quite yet. It's because I did something wrong here. It's supposed to be side dash bar like that. And now we're going to go ahead and print out our users or our chats accordingly. So we're going to say down here, if the active sidebar is equals to sidebar.type.chats, we're going to go ahead and print out the chats. And if it's not, we're just going to go ahead and do our users. So now we do that, and we go back, and I type in that guy. Looks like we're still not getting it, and that's because set active sidebar is not a thing. Yeah, we have to make that function. So let's make that function real quick and use that so we don't have to bind it inside of our constructor. I'm going to say new sidebar, I guess, for this. I'm going to say this.set state equals this bad boy active sidebar. And that's going to be our new sidebar. Just like that. Now if we go back and we check that, you see that it's going back and forth. Looks like our active is not quite working yet, but that's okay. If we go to the render function, I didn't do anything after that. So if that's true, we're going to give it active, and if it's false, we're going to give it nothing. All right. So now you see that we check chats and users. Now let's get our chats or our users from our actual backend here. So let's go to our chat container, and we're going to import some more things from our events here. And that's going to be user connected and user disconnected. And if we go to our socket manager, I'll show you what's happening there is that we already do have something emitting for whenever a user is connected. We emit that a user connected and gives us our object of connected users. So in our chat container, all we have to do is make an event binding for that. So we say socket.on and then user disconnected, and that's going to pass the users. And what we want is the names of those users, or just actually the values of those users. We're going to get all the objects from that. And I'll just show you what that actually sends back. So users, just like that. And I'm just going to type in Mike here. And if we go to the console, you see that it has an object here, and that's just an object with our Mike in there. And we don't want our object to have Mike and Lily and all those things. So if I go over here and I type in Lily, and we go back, you'll see that it says Mike and Lily. We don't want that. We just want these objects themselves. So we're going to get another function from LoDash, and that's called values, and it just gets the values of of those objects. So let's say values, just like that, from LoDash. And now if I use that here, just to show you what happens, mix it into an array. And now you see that it's an array of 0. And if I go over here and type in Lily, you'll see that now we have an array of 2. So that's exactly what we want. We want our users to have our ID, name, and socket ID. So now we're just going to make that our state. So we're going to say so console.log this.set state. And we're going to make an object users, just like that. Boom. And then we're also going to do the same thing for user disconnected. This.set state, users, and values. Perfect. So now we can take all these users out of our chat here and just make it an empty array. And now if I log in right here as Mike, you'll see there's no users yet because it doesn't print out Mike if he's already logged in. And I type in Lily, you'll see that Mike's here and Lily's there. So one more thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we don't try to set our state when we are logging out. So for instance, if I log out with Mike here, right, it says set state, you try to set the state when the component's not active, and we don't want to keep doing that. That's actually a leak in memory. So we're going to go ahead and say on component will unmount, which is a function that happens every time a component is unmounted, like our chat container when we log out. We're going to say const, get that socket from our state or props, and we're going to say sockets.off, and this unbinds that event that happens on all these down here. So we're going to say private message, and we're also going to say user connected and user disconnected. Now if we go back and I say Mike like that, and I say like that, and then I try to log out, you see that we don't have that anymore. Let's go ahead and get rid of these messages. Message input 58. So let's go to message input, and we're going to go to stop typing and typing. And we're also going to go to our layout and get rid of something real quick, and that's this title. We don't need this title anymore. Awesome. So that's it, guys. We did it. We have now Mike and Lily. And now we don't have to type in the names up here. We can just click this and we'll have a chat just like that. So now I want to go ahead and set it back to chats every time I click on a user here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to sidebar.js. And then every time we do this, we're also going to say this dot set active sidebar, and that's going to be sidebar.type.chats, just like that. And if we go back and we log in again, and I hit that, boom, it comes back to our chats, and now I can type hey, and there we are. There we go, guys. We have listed our users, and now we can go ahead and just click on them instead of having to type in their name up here. See you guys in the next one, where we go ahead and change this name so it says like and whoever else we add to this chat. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and tweet me on Twitter. That's the best way to reach me. Also, leave comments down below. And if you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really liked it, go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.